Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or whether you're tuning in after the fact. Today, I'm actually very honored and privileged to have the awesome Jesse Kove joining me on my channel. And Jesse, you're actually my first ever Cobra Kai guest on the channel, so thank you so much for just sparing the time to do this.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Honored to break the pattern here.
Thanks so much, man. And how are you doing today anyway? You okay?
Dude, I'm doing great. I got my little fire going. It's like, kind of holiday time, which I really like. And dude, I love your shirt, one, and two, I love all your little bobbleheads back there. Your
Oh,
pops.
thanks, man. I've got signed Daniel and Johnny at the back over there as well. So
Ooh, nice, man. I don't even remember if I'm supposed to say this now, but I'm pretty sure they're on their way making a Kreese pop, which will be coming out soon. So you gotta add that to the
awesome.
collection.
I certainly will. Are they going to make a Varsity Captain David one as well?
I would love that, man. We got some cool stuff in the works, so some cool merch stuff. So we'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the heads up. Anyway, that's pretty cool to know. But yeah, Jesse. Anyway, today, pretty much I've got a couple of questions to ask you, but I also just want to kind of delve deep a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your time on Cobra Kai, your other projects and stuff you've got going on in the future as well. So we'll start with this first kind of interesting fact that I actually read up on today, and I learned that around 10 years old, you were using maybe your dad's video camera and creating movies. Is that right?
Yeah, my dad had this really great little JVC camera at the time, and at the time they take these little tapes called like mini DV tapes. So it was like a little tape cassette you'd put into the video camera, and it would record. And I would use all my like GI Joe action figures, and I'd make like little action movies. It was I guess the start of my movie career was back then.
Well, that's pretty cool. Is that what would you say that was what you got you started in terms of like wanting to go into acting or doing some filming or directing, anything like that?
When I was really young, I never really knew that that's ultimately what I would do. I always loved like visiting my dad when he was on movie sets, and it was always like just so much fun for me. It was like going into like Disneyland or something. Such a variety of different movies and different places around the world. So I was really lucky to be able to do that, and it just was always a good time. And then I naturally liked to entertain people. Like when I was a kid, I would always do magic tricks, and like I'd set up a little stage, and I would do like I'd have a little box and my wand, and I would do like all these magic tricks. So I guess I naturally like to entertain people and make them laugh, and I would always like mimic voices that I would hear, and do funny accents and things like that. And I still do that today. So I know it kind of just fell into my lap naturally, and my dad never pushed me to be in the industry at all, because it
Right.
is a crazy industry. It's just such a roller coaster, but it's very rewarding. And then when I was about when I was in middle school and high school, I was always in like my film and cinema classes, and then I was always doing a play at the school, and so I just naturally enjoyed it, and it was always something that was kind of like second nature to me. And then
Right.
when I was about 17, I'd say I kind of started jumping into it professionally, and I got an agent, and now I got a whole team behind me, and it's been amazing, man.
No, man, that's awesome, and it's really cool to hear about. As you mentioned with your dad, Martin Kove, he didn't push you to be in the industry and kind of like let you be on your own 2 feet, which you've certainly done, man, throughout a lot of accomplishments which we'll get through. But no, that's really, really awesome to hear. And one thing I wanted to ask you is before we kind of touch on the stuff with Cobra Kai. Now, quote me if I'm wrong on this, but when I was reading through kind of like your credits and stuff you've done in the past, I don't think you've ever played a character with the same name ever?
Never like my real name, like the character name Jesse.
Yeah, like or just in general, like say one role where you played a character called Ethan or Ryan. Like you've never
Oh
had the
yeah,
same names as like
I've been
into another
lucky,
project.
man. I've had such a diverse career, and I've been really lucky to have all these different characters from different time periods,
Mhm.
comedies, drama, World War II action films, it's science fiction action comedies. I've been really lucky that way. And I like it that way. I really like having that kind of diversity. It keeps you on your toes, and it's
Sure.
I'm very lucky that I haven't been typecast yet.
Yeah, I've
Yeah, I
noticed.
don't know. Might happen. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've noticed that you've actually taken on quite a few different roles throughout your filmography thus far, and that's actually really impressive because, as you've said, you could get typecast, but at the same time, at the minute, You're just, going out there. I follow you on your personal Instagram, so I always see that you're
Oh,
working
thank you.
out or bulking up, man. Whatever you're doing right now. So yeah, definitely really excited to learn a bit more about that as we go on. But one thing I want to touch on firstly is, how did you get into acting?
So like I said earlier, I was always around movie sets growing up, which I think is probably, I was very lucky, and it's a humbling experience. It's kind of like the best acting school you can have is to be on sets because, I've seen people that have been training, for years, and then when they get on a movie set, it's kind of like they don't really know how to operate or how it works. There's like
Right.
there's definitely like an echelon of different things, and not necessarily a hierarchy, but there is like a whole different, in a very like militarized way. There's like, the producers, the director, and then everybody else, and like how it goes. Everybody's working together to achieve the moment right when the camera's in front of you to get those moments. And there's so much that goes on behind that, and having an understanding of all that I think is really helpful. um, it's knowing what the DP is doing, asking him, what kind of lens he's using, and helps you as the actor kind of figure out what's going on. And so I was lucky to be able to have that accessible to me, and being able to
Sure.
break movies down, with my dad and stuff, and then creating my own films as well. And I was always in acting class, growing up, and I love being on the stage. It's so fun. I did off Broadway in New York for a little while
Oh
as
wow.
well, which was that was an amazing experience. I mean, there's nothing, honestly, people who do, theater and Broadway, like to me, that's like the ultimate, art form of acting, is being able to go on stage and perform. It's so different because you get one shot, you do it right there in front of the audience. It's live. If you mess up, you kind of keep going. Pretend like you never happened, and then when you're on film, you're lucky you get another take. If you mess it up, they can change it. They can basically make it essentially perfect. And
Sure.
also there's like, the movie magic that happens as well when you're doing, film and television. They're kind of, oh, that was a really cool take you did. Well, let's use that one. It's really nice. And if my mic cuts out or whatever because of my AirPods, just let me know and I'll take it off. But
Yeah. Sure.
um, it's that's so basically I was in class all the time, and watching my dad, and then eventually I know I love the art form of it. I love being different characters. I really pride myself on really trying to do great work, work that's moving for people and for me. The
Yeah.
challenge is always something I like to accept and work up to. I never want it to be like really easy in a way, because then it kind of like gets a little complacent. I
Right.
always want to do something that's going to push me a little bit, because it just makes you an all-around better person and a better artist.
Sure. Yeah, and obviously doing something different all the time is going to push your abilities as well
Yeah,
and
and it's
test those.
stimulating. Keeps you going, keeps you interested in what you're doing.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I know you've done like some kind of timepiece movies. You've done some Christmas movies, TV
Yeah,
work. So you've
yep.
done a bit of wide range, to be fair, and that's awesome. So would you say that you prefer, or actually, what would do you prefer? Do you prefer TV work or movie work?
It's hard. I mean, TV, they're both great in their own way. Like, the cool thing about TV is that, you're with that character, and it's like elongated over a long period of time. So you can kind of like that character arc may take 2 years to get to a certain point, which is amazing. And
Hmm.
then there's also something really nice about doing a movie for, 3 months or 6 months or whatever, or a month. And then you kind of like, you start and you have that end point, and it's like, it's all wrapped up and done, and you can move on to the next one. There's something really nice about doing both of those.
Right.
And I think TV is obviously so incredible right now. We're in such a golden age of television.
Yeah.
I was watching a show last night, which I'm so enjoying, on Apple TV, called Invasion. I don't know if you've heard about it.
No, I
It's
can't
it's
say I
it's
have.
all about like aliens invading planet Earth, and it's so good. It's like just such a slow burn, and it was
Mm.
just again, perfect example. Like, I invested 10 weeks into watching that show, versus like,
Right.
you go to the movies or you watch a movie, it's like 2 hours and then it's done. But so it's amazing to be able to stay with those characters for a long period of time.
Right. Right, yeah, definitely, and especially with like what you'll get on very shortly about Cobra Kai, it's expanded those characters where, as you mentioned, like a 1 hour and a half, 2 hour movie, you can only know them so much. And then
Right.
in TV, as you said, when you were playing, I believe it was Ryan in First Day, you had that time
Oh
to,
wow,
build
bringing
that
up the old
character.
days. I love it.
Yeah, man. Well, you start somewhere, and then you've gained momentum as you keep going throughout your career. And again, I'm excited to get into that. So one kind of quick question we've actually received here is, what would your dream role be, such as character you'd like to play, genre of villain, or who would you want as a co-star?
So I'm working on this right now with my dad. I think
Cool.
something right now for me would be I'd love to do a Western. We almost
Mm,
did a Western together a couple months back, but scheduling issues for both of us, it didn't work out. And it's just, I love period pieces. For some reason, I don't know what it is. When I do a period piece, I'm so locked into these characters because, like, the wardrobe's different, like the surroundings are different, the sets are always different. And I feel like I'm able to jump into those characters so
right.
quickly right away. Whether you're doing a cowboy, he's got a little bit of an accent, he's doing all this, and something
Yeah.
like that. And I just think period pieces I just love. I've always wanted to do like a medieval movie with
Wow.
sword fighting and armor. I mean, God, it would be such a dream. And then, so as I was saying, my dad and I are working on a western right now together, which
Okay.
is again another just a great role that I would love to do, especially alongside him. It's a dream for both of us. We're both big western fanatics, and so that's going really well right now, and that's one definitely a check off the list.
Yeah.
Something else
Yeah.
would kind of be maybe like, you know, a character that, has to basically achieve a lot personally and, help others. Like maybe he's a bad guy starting
Right.
out, right? And then he's gotta kind of redeem himself and then he becomes good, something like that that has a really great arc and the change of characters I always think is so fascinating to watch. Like, you know, I mean, take John Kreese, for example, right? Like
Right.
people either love him or they hate him or they love to hate him, or is he good, is he bad, we don't really know.
Sure.
um
Sure.
I definitely think you know uh Captain David was Varsity Captain David was, he was kind of he was a bit of an a-hole, you know what I mean? uh
Yeah.
so was there good in him? I'm sure. Do we get a chance to see it? Not yet. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
Sure.
I think that
Sure.
those kind of characters are always are some of my favorites.
Sure. Yeah, and I can kind of see where you come from in terms of the period piece that you prefer maybe to do that, because even if you do a role nowadays, that's great set like modern times, etc. But the period piece, I feel like you'd probably learn something maybe along, in history, maybe something happened in that event and you didn't know about
Oh
previously.
my God, dude, like, hugely so. I mean, so I worked with Joseph Fiennes in China for like 3 months. We did a World War II movie called On Wings of Eagles, and it was all
Okay.
about when the Japanese first invaded China just before World War II started,
Mm.
and I mean, we were there really working in this prison camp together where people were actually taken prisoner, and we actually met some of the survivors from
Oh
from that
wow.
prison camp. And I mean, it was amazing. I mean, what a privilege to meet these people and portray some of them and listen to their stories and then be able to share that with the world, maybe in ways that have never been seen before. So stuff like that
Wow.
is really just incredible. Some of the things you get to do and the people you get to meet. And I'm very, very fortunate to be able to do that. And also like working
Mm.
with someone like Joe is like, I mean, he is to me is like the epitome of just, pure art, cinematic artistry. I mean, he was
Sure.
incredible to work with and work alongside, and such a gentleman. And we just had a great time. And it's those kind of movies that are really important to me, and they were incredible to work on.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I've got a comment here in the chat as well from a girl called Abigail saying, what an amazing experience. And I couldn't say that better myself, being honest with you.
Oh, thanks, Abigail. Appreciate that.
And
And
that's
Joe's
awesome.
lovely, fellow Brit, and
Right.
lovely man, just such a gentleman.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm gonna have to have a look into that because you've actually got me really interested in that now.
It's
So
it was
just
actually the cool one of the cool things about that movie too. It's
sure.
the unofficial sequel to Chariots of Fire that won Best Picture. I forget when it won Best Picture, but this is basically the sequel and what happens after that. And Joe plays Eric Little, who the movie's about, and in the first movie, Chariots of Fire, and you see with the journey of what happens to him afterwards. So it's just amazing, the stuff that falls in your lap.
Yeah. No, definitely, and the different opportunities, it's ever expanding by the sounds of it. And one thing I want to touch on, which you touched on just a second ago, was about Varsity Captain David Huntley, Cobra Kai. Got a lot of Cobra Kai subscribers who are a big fan of the show, like myself. And I've got a couple of questions. So, the
Yeah.
first one is for people that don't know, because I know, because I've watched a couple of interviews, I've read a little bit as well. But how did you get involved in Cobra Kai season 3?
When I got involved in Cobra Kai, I never knew that I would be a part of the show at all. I would always like kind of, secretly hope that something would open up or, something would happen. It would just be so fun to be involved in that because I'm a huge fan of the show myself, having, even being so close to it, with my dad,
Right.
being John Kreese. I've been with it the whole way since its inception. And, I got a call from my manager, and he told me that the casting director wanted to see you for this role, and I was like, really? Okay. And so we were kind of, we didn't know too much about it at the time. They were kind of keeping it a secret, what it was, and I got these sides, and I was studying. I worked really hard. I really wanted to, impress everybody. I mean, I always thought what a joke it would be if I went and auditioned for this and I just totally, flopped on this thing, how
Sure.
embarrassing that would be. Um, and so I went in there, and I remember I was in the audition room, and I was talking to the casting director, and I said, I was like, I was like, how mean do you want this guy to be? Do you want him to be like just totally off the end, like just? And I used the words. I was like, how much of an asshole do you want him to be? Is what I said. And they
Sure.
were like, we want full on. And I was like, okay, got it, good. So I did it one way, asked the question, and then I did it another way, and they were just they loved what I did. I was obviously the next couple weeks I was just biting my nails trying to figure out what was going on. And what was funny was my dad was actually in Atlanta, Georgia, shooting. He had already started season 3 when I auditioned for this. So we were all excited, and we all planned it out in our head. I was like, oh, if I get it, Dad, like I'll come stay with you. It'll work out. It'll be easier, and blah blah blah. And then eventually I got the call that they just loved what I did, and they thought that I hit it out of the park, and then I booked it, and I just was
Sure.
so grateful and excited. And I went down there, and I remember my first day going down there. It was my dad and Billy Zabka, who plays Johnny Lawrence. We all went to Target to get like groceries and stuff. And Billy like came up to me, and I've known Billy for years. He's a good friend as well. And he like came up to me and he gave me a big hug, and he's like, "Welcome to Cobra Kai, baby." It was like really funny, and
That's
it was
awesome.
awesome. It was a great experience, and also sharing that with my dad, and then even playing the character that bullies him as a young man it was
Yeah.
very I felt uh honored to do that, and it was also important story wise, and I felt like I really wanted to do the character justice for what they needed to tell the story of his character. And
Sure.
I was geeking out like anybody else. I was here on the set, and I met Barrett, who plays young Kreese, and he's a great
Yeah.
actor, and we were so excited to meet each other. And it was just kind of like this cool Back to the Future moment. My dad was watching, and we had John, Josh,
Man,
and Hayden there they were looking at the monitors, and it was just so surreal, man.
man, you know what it is? Funny enough, you mentioned Back to the Future. It's my favorite movie, and
Wow, dude, that's
dude,
awesome. Love that.
yeah, I've got half a sleeve. Yeah.
Dude, that's
Man,
sick, man. That's freaking awesome.
thanks, man.
Where's
No,
the where's the Cobra Kai sleeve?
I've got both full.
He's got no more room. He's got no more
No,
room.
no.
I love it. I
And
love it.
one thing I wanted to actually ask you when you mentioned there, so you said that when you first got to set, you're with your dad, you're with Billy Zabka when you went to Target. Did you guys get like attacked by fans in Target as well?
It's so crazy, man. Like, walking around with like my dad and Billy, or Ralph too. It's like really like I would say, Billy and my dad spent a lot of time together down there. And, that during season 3, they had a lot of, I forget. Yeah, I think it was season 3. They had a lot of scenes together, I think. And, even after that, and they've been friends for years as well as Ralph. And because Ralph lives in New York, and then Billy's here, and they were all we'd see each other on kids' birthdays and stuff like that. But
Sure.
yeah, when those two walk around town together, it's like I don't know, it's like seeing, it's like you can't even describe it. People are just so excited to see them. It's almost like it doesn't feel real to see these guys walking together in real life.
Right.
And they love the fans, and It's just been so fun. Even like when my dad and I walk around and they see him and I together, and then they kind of put it two and two together. They didn't know we were father and son, and then I was the bully in the show, and they remember me. It's like it's just so funny, you know.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but it's all good and fun, you know.
Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And the role that you play in Cobra Kai, the Varsity Captain David, it's awesome. As you said, you get to add to kind of your dad's legacy in the show.
Yeah.
And that is really just surreal. And a question I've actually got for you, and I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, is do you think at some point, maybe in Cobra Kai future, they may be able to put like prosthetics on you or like a grey wig, and could you come back as like an older version of Varsity Captain
That
David?
would be amazing, man. I don't know. I mean, that would be. I know they've talked about the publicly. The producer talked about opening up the world of Cobra Kai and either doing sequels or prequels or whatever,
Right.
spin-off series. Who knows? But if I did come back as that character or someone else, I mean, it would be so much fun, and I would just it'd be such a joy. It'd be a personal love of mine. It would be great. So we'll see, man. Who knows? I mean, it's such a vast universe. It's funny. I saw this picture today on Instagram. Someone had put like these photos of like the posters from Karate Kid 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then Cobra Kai season 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I
Sure.
was looking at. I was like, God, look at this amazing legacy. There was like eight of these posters, and spanning back to the 80s. I mean, it's an amazing thing to see.
Right, right. Yeah, and kind of adding on to the comment about that as well. I've got a comment here saying plot twist that you actually in the future open up your own dojo to get revenge on Kreese. That would
I've
be cool.
sent. I remember I sent a funny message to Barrett Carnahan, who plays young Kreese. It was like, when they had those, everybody was doing like the face apps where they were making themselves look older. Those were going around.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
making one of him, and I remember which was my dad, and then one of me, like with old. I was like, oh, maybe these two will meet up later on in the show, and it was just really really funny. But who knows, man? I don't know. It maybe comes
That's
back. I
cool.
have no idea.
Man, I would love to see that. I'm sure
Oh, I
everyone
appreciate
else would
that.
as well.
Yeah.
But could you tell us maybe like a cool behind the scenes story that happened on your experience of Cobra Kai?
Well, there's a few. One of the main ones that that's such a cool thing to share was like when I was on set and I was in my wardrobe and in my clothes and everything, and they brought me to the diner that morning. They brought me to the diner where we were shooting that scene, and Josh Heald, one of the writers producers, he's like, "Come here, Jesse, we got something cool to show you." I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, what's going on?" And he's like, "So this is the car you're going to be driving up in, and you guys are going to get out." And I was like, this yellow one? He's like, yeah, yeah. And I was like, isn't this the car that Mr. Miyagi gave Ralph? And like, this is Ralph's car. He's
No.
like, yeah, this is the one. I was like, dude, I'm like, my mind is blown right now. I was like, how does this work in the universe? And so he said it was like, oh, it would be a fun Easter egg for people to see. And so that alone was one of the coolest things. Not, I mean, like barely anybody gets to drive that car.
Right,
And I mean, literally, it's like a piece of
right.
like cinema history. And I always make a joke that I carved Cobra Kai into the side of the car, but I didn't. That was amazing to be able to do that. And all the moments and the meaningful moments that were in that car. Like in
Right.
Karate Kid, Allie in the car with Daniel, and at the golf course, and they're
Yeah.
driving that car, and then all of a sudden I'm driving this car who ends up bullying Kreese, later on. That was a super highlight of that day was being able to drive that car, and then also the fight sequence that we did at the end. Like we rehearsed that for a few days, and that was also a huge highlight. It was just such a blast. I mean, how could you do an episode of Cobra Kai and not get into a fight with someone?
Right. Right. And man, getting a chance to ride that yellow car is just so iconic.
Yeah, that
And
Ford. It was amazing. It was amazing.
that is awesome. So, man, I'm sure like plenty of people like myself would love to see you come back onto Cobra Kai. But for now, since Cobra Kai, I read that you did a movie called Recipe for Abduction that I'm yet to see, but I have got on my watch list.
That's a
So
fun one. I play
what
I
was that
play a
experience like?
really bad guy in that one. That was a good one. I really enjoy playing villains. It's so much fun for me. I just find like the door is just wide open for whatever you want to do. I feel like if you play a superhero or hero, you kind of have to stay in these lines a little bit. But then if you're a villain,
Right.
you kind of it's totally open.
Sure.
So I really, really enjoyed that movie. Really well made. Tomorrow was great in it. She ends up playing the girl that I kidnap.
Right.
Um, and but just a great film, super fun, well made. I think it was on Lifetime. We had a fun time making that. And then one of my other favorites I just did is called Taste of Love with
Yeah.
Aaron Cahill. That we shot in Florida, which was just lovely, lovely movie. Another different side of me, people can kind of see. I feel like that character was very similar to me in a sense, in the you know in the way of like just kind of the easiness of it and the character. I really enjoyed playing him, and he was just kind of dealing with his own personal emotions and falling in love with this woman again, and it's a really lovely
Sure.
movie. I cannot wait for people to see that.
Man, I'm hyped to see that in your future works. And well, we've got like a little bit less than 5 minutes, so I've got kind of like two more questions
Yeah,
to ask you, if
no
that's
problem.
cool.
We're good.
So you mentioned about being a villain in some of these movies. So what's your inspiration when you come to play a villain, and when you finish the take, does your fellow actors be like, do you go and apologize to them, be like, oh wow, look, it's only the scene that I'm being a dick?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny, like perfect example was when I was doing Cobra Kai, and I had my girlfriend who
Yeah.
was there, and remember when I have to slap her a few times,
Right.
Betsy,
Yeah.
and we did that take probably like I don't know 10 times. They just wanted to get it just right, and like every time before we were rolling, I was like, I so don't want to do this to you, and she's the one who goes, it's okay, just do it. And it was so like we were like literally like just before you see that moment, her and I were literally looking at each other like laughing and smiling, and then all of a sudden they call action. I'm just like all that whole or the backhand, sorry, which is terrible. I never want to ever have. I will never do that to a woman else. I never want to, and it was just it felt
Sure.
like crap having to do it. But it was the character, and it was for Kreese to come out to see me so we could have that fight.
Right.
But it was really funny, like perfect example of that. Like before that, we're like, oh, okay, and sometimes even fighting sequences, like even when we were doing the fight sequences in those movies, like we're fighting and we're rumbling and tumbling, and then all of a sudden, maybe like you slip or fall or something, and we'll stop. Like, are you okay, dude? Like, can I, and you're helping each other out. So,
Sure.
obviously being safe is so important, the utmost importance. But, there's things that in film that you got to do sometimes that are, obviously it's the character and it's obviously something you would never personally do, but it's for the story. And, you get into it, and you just got to really, go with it and trust the writing, and know that it's,
Right.
it's, it's the story. It's not real life.
Right. No, no, sure. Yeah. It's just, I kind of like that kind of like instinct about you, though, like your personality be like, whoa, like, I know it's only like kind of a job, but, only like, I don't want to be doing that,
You're
like the
right.
backhand, as you said. So the last question I've got for you, Jesse, and is kind of about, I know you've touched on it a little bit already, but for people that want to see more of yourself as well, like myself, what projects have you got coming up? So I know you said you're working on the Western with your dad, of course, Martin Kove, for people that don't know. But I saw that you have also in the past done a little bit of directing on a short called The Audition. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was a really,
Right.
really fun movie I did. It was basically a spoof on like actors and the audition process. I
Right.
love being behind the camera. I just actually finished building a rig of mine with my Black Magic, and I can't wait to go out and start using it and filming stuff. And I just think very similar like how Ben Affleck does. I would
Yeah.
really enjoy to have a career like that, being able to go in front and behind the camera, Clint Eastwood. I
Sure.
just love telling stories, and honestly, being a director makes you a much better actor. You really get such a sense of what's needed, behind the camera, and um, there's there even when you're directing and you're acting, like there's so much technical stuff that gets in the way of not in the way, but it's like as an actor, you're kind of like, oh, was it good? Do we need another one or whatever? But it's like it's not your fault as the actor. It was a technical thing that they have to redo or go closer or speed up or you know what I
Right.
mean? It's stuff
Right.
like that, and it's really important to learn that. And like here's a funny example too. When we were shooting, I forget what it was. It was yeah, it was season 3, and I was visiting the set, and my dad had this scene with Hawk in his office, and he's like got a cigar cutter in his hands, and he's talking to
Yeah.
Hawk and Jacob, who's just so awesome. Love Jacob, such a good dude. Um, and he kept the camera was really low shooting up towards my dad, and he had the cigar cutter that it was kind of like in the way of his mouth when he was using it, and they had to redo this take over and over and over again. And my dad didn't realize that it was because the cigar cutter was in the way of his mouth. And he kept thinking that it was something that he was doing wrong. And so he got up. He's like, "What's going on, guys? Is it me? Like, what is it?" And he's like, "No, Marty. Like, your cigar cutter keeps getting in the way. Where you're putting it is in the way of your mouth. We can't see it." And so funny stuff like that, you know. Actors would get in our head like thinking we're doing something wrong, you know.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, that directing is a huge part, and I love producing as well. All things cinema, and you know, it's all a terrific art form. I love it.
Sure. And going forward, are we going to see you do some more directing, or what other like kind of acting jobs or anything have you got coming up
Yeah,
that you could tell us about?
I'm in the middle of working on a script right now with a buddy of mine. It's like an action heist movie, so which would be really fun to finish. Um, and then just finished a project in New York called Gravesend. It's a series on Amazon,
Oh, cool.
and that'll come out probably in 2022. I'll be in like 3 episodes of that. Really fun for people to
Nice.
see. I play. I don't want to say too much because it's going to be really cool for people to see. But
Sure.
I play a Hasidic Jewish man who I'm actually, you know, I was raised Jewish. My dad's
Oh,
Jewish, and I played a Hasidic Jewish man who's in the mafia, in the Jewish mafia, and in
wow.
the '80s. It's pretty cool. We had a good time with that. So a lot of fun stuff in the works, and a lot of great projects coming out, and also more to come.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm hyped for all of that. And I've also got the links in the description of the stream for your personal Instagram, your personal links, and your IMDb for if anyone wants to keep up to date to you. But Jesse, that is going to kind of wrap up our time. I appreciate you bit on a limited time. So, firstly, man, I just want to say a big thank you to you just for sparing this time. And it's been honestly a blast talking to you,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely, man. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, guys, so if you tune in live after the fact, thank you for so much for tuning in again. Thank you so much to my guest, Jesse, for joining me. And thank you to Rick, who helped set this up as well. And we'll be seeing you later.
Absolutely.